Hi guys, this is Mrs. Hill. This is our second lesson from our book, Potato, A Tale from the Great Depression. In our first lesson, we read pages 4 through 9. Today, we will read pages 10 through 15. Before we get started on our section for today, we're going to do another picture walk like we did the first time. So again, we've got these really pretty illustrations that help bring the characters to life. Page 13, inside that picture, this gentleman's holding a sign that says unemployed, will do any work. This is page 14, and if you look closely at that picture, I hope you can see it. This gentleman here is holding a potato in his hand. And on page 15, it looks like our family has gotten in a car. So let's do a quick look at some vocabulary words that we might need to pay attention to that will help us with our story comprehension. On page 11, we need to look at the word closed. I think we all know what closed means, but pay particular attention to the word closed. On page 12, the word is available. And on page 14, the word that we are going to look for and pay attention to is the word borrow. Okay, so going back to page 10 and 11, that's where we're going to start to read. But before we do that, we're going to take a look at our questions or our skill sheets. You will find yours in your Google document that is on your Google Classroom. We will use the same skill packet all week long. I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to indicate on that packet that we will use that all week long. So when you look in your digital classroom, you will see that assignment that says we will use all week long. As you work in this and as we continue to add answers, do not hit submit. As we continue to add answers as the next few days go along, it will save automatically. We will not hit submit we will not hit submit until Friday. But what we're going to do today, we're going to see if we meet any new characters in our story. Yesterday, we had 3 people that we met. We met Agnes, Clarence, their little girl, her name was Dorothy, and we counted Dorothy's kitty cat that she was holding in the pictures as a story character. So I gave you the 4th character that we met. Today, we are going to see how many characters we meet in our lesson today. Okay, so we're also going to look at the setting of the story. Yesterday, we said that the setting or the time period of our story was during the Great Depression, and it also occurred at home. So we will see today the setting will change a little bit. It will change to a coal mine. So as we read and as you listen to the story, you will be introduced to a coal mine, and we will see how that becomes relevant to our story. Down in our 3rd box, the question says, what is the family's problem in the story? So what we're going to do, I'm going to highlight it for you so you can see on page 9 and on page 13 of the story, it will indicate to you what the family's problem is. So we will go back to the first lesson to see what the family's first problem is. Then on page 13, it gives you another problem that the family was facing. And the last question we're going to take a look at, how will they solve their problem? So how will the family solve their problem? So we need to make sure that we have the family's problem identified. And there can be more than one problem. We're also going to see how they begin to solve their problem. Okay, so we'll just do a little story or a little question preview there before we get started. And the next question on your second skill sheet is the second part of the first question. It says, why are potatoes so important in the story? Okay, so here's a why question. It's asking your opinion of why potatoes are so important in the story. The answer to that starts off being your opinion or a story prediction. Then as the story goes on, you will understand more about why potatoes are so important to this story. So I gave you a sentence starter. Potatoes are important in this story because I restated part of the question to begin my answer. So as you type in your Google document, try your best to restate part of the question before you supply your answer. I know this is difficult as we look at this. I have an example here for you, and then you're trying to use your Google document. So we're going to do the best we can on this, see how it goes. If you all do well with it, we'll keep working that way. If we need to try something else, we certainly will. So anyhow, we're going to go back to our story. And I am going to read to you pages 10 through 15. So again, before I read, we will take a look at this picture, okay? I hope there's not a glare coming off the light, but if there is, we'll just do the best we can. Agnes's father had a job in a coal mine, and Clarence joined him. Here's a new character, Agnes's father, okay? So when the family packed up their house into their car, when we read that yesterday, that they packed their belongings in their car. They must have gone home or gone to the city where Agnes's father lives. Then one day the coal mine closed. There were no other jobs available. See, in the newspaper here, he's looking for jobs. People took jobs wherever they could find them. Someone they met told them there were jobs in Idaho picking potatoes. Agnes knew someone who had a car they could borrow. So they borrowed money for gas and left Iowa with Dorothy. So here they are in their car, and they're leaving Iowa to go pick potatoes. Okay, so Iowa is a state. We can add Iowa to our setting. I'm going to add it right here on our skill sheet. So Iowa as it being, Idaho, excuse me. So I'm going to include Idaho in my setting box, and I hope that it looks kind of messy, but I think you can read it. So there was another change of setting. The state of Idaho, so that's a setting. And I think you've been able to now understand what the family's problem is. So if you will go back to page 13, on page 13, the sign gives you an idea of what the family's problem is. Also on page 12, it tells you what the family story is. Okay, and if you go all the way back to page 9, I think we will just do that now rather than try to go back and listen to the first lesson. We will go back to page 9, and here it tells us that Clarence lost his job. So everything seems to be kind of going around the fact that Clarence lost his job. Then they moved to be closer to Agnes's father. He got a job in the coal mines. They closed. He was looking for a job. And then someone says that in Idaho, there are jobs picking potatoes. So I'm guessing that by looking at this picture, they are on their way to Idaho in the car with Dorothy. I don't see the kitty cat in there, but looks like they're heading to Idaho to pick potatoes. So we will see a little bit more tomorrow what happens in our story. The second question that you have to finish: potatoes are important in this story because you're going to fill your answer in after you restate the second part of this question. Okay, so if you need to pause the video to kind of zoom in on that, that would be fine. Or tomorrow, we'll go back and we'll double check that as well. So I hope that kind of enticed you a little bit to see what happened next in our story, and we will go back to lesson 3 on our next lesson. Bye-bye.